Hi and welcome. We are in the month of March, the third episode in our second year running. Welcome to Afternoon Tea. I'm Niyati Patel of Nimble Futures, and here is Shawn Bradbury
Hello,
from
everyone.
Granite
Good to
and
see you.
Granite. So he's the owner, founder of Grounded in Granite, and he works with men, and I work with families. And here we are having conversations about things that matter to us most in our individual journeys and in our efforts to serve families and people like yourself. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, today we want to talk about something that's kind of playing on our minds. As we move through different phases of transition, because parenting is not just your child doesn't stay the one age forever. So as your child grows, you grow, and not just in age, and your relationship grows. And also, you know, it kind of puts us in perspective as to who are we vis-a-vis not just our kids or our immediate family, but within our community. Who are we within our social circle? Not just circle, because that would mean the people you hang out with, but just meaning the what I mean to say is social resources, people, just having people. You don't have to have like a certain uh, give and take or a certain equation. It's just people are there, that kind of feeling becomes important, especially as our kids grow. No matter whether it's from growing from the house into kindergarten or from kindergarten to later on in high school or graduating to college or going out all the way. Um, these are different stages. And then later on, there are stages of they're going to have their own families. And then where does that place you? So this is like a much longer journey. And so we want to talk a little bit about this, what it means for us individually, and how we see this in people and families around us. So, Shawn, your thoughts on just, your daughter's going to be graduating and just your thoughts on this transition.
Yeah, it's an interesting time in our lives because she's going to turn 18 next month. Then she's also going to graduate from high school. And being just a single parent, all the responsibility, lies with me. And we're always together all the time. And so knowing that these things are changing, and they have been changing already. I mean, she has her license, she has a job, she has a boyfriend. There's already things in the works. But now you take out, you've been institutionalized through school for 12 years. Now that's going to end. That's going to be something different for us and definitely for her as well. She's going to go on to cosmetology, which is awesome. But there is that, she's a so-called adult now from, legally standing, if you will, even though there's still this huge transition and in her head of going from, you know, being, a young woman to an adult and having more responsibility. She wants it at times, but then she doesn't want it. You know what I mean? It's that
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like that duality of going from one to the other, and you know, it's an interesting stage in our lives for both of us to see how we can kind of to manage it truthfully and understand it moving forward.
But then I feel like I would want. So my nephew is a few years older than her. One of the things I want, and not want, I want, but I'm not saying I'm saying it like I want this asking out of him, but I'm just saying I want that. But when I get that, is this when they reach out to us, like, so they start to have their own lives, but then they still kind of lean on and keep that connection. Um, and on the other hand, there's also this nice feeling like I don't have to keep looking after you in the way that I used to. But at the same time, it's just something heartening about having that. So we will need each other, but in a different way. But we want to keep that connection alive, not to get too estranged in a way that we don't know what to do with ourselves if we see each other again after many years. We don't want that.
Yeah. And I think the other balance too is, like I said, her becoming an adult and having to have more responsibility. Like I said, she has a car, so she has gas, insurance, all of these things. And it's my job to feed her even more responsibility so she's not shell shocked when she goes out and like, oh wow, I got to pay for all of this. It's definitely a learning process of, she's going from, okay, all my life my parents were taking care of me. I didn't have to pay for anything. I really worked for anything, but now I do. And now she comes to terms with how expensive things are, or how do I want to spend my money? Do I want to buy a bunch of junk and not be able to go out with my boyfriend for dinner? It's working out the kinks in how is my life changing, and I have to provide for myself more. If I want things, it's to the point where it's like, if you want things now, you need to provide them. You know, so it's definitely an interesting stage in our lives.
And I feel that building that independence is an important. It's going to build her self-esteem, her self-respect. Her knowing what she can get done, and I'm sure she doesn't want you around paying for her either. It's convenient sometimes, and you want to crawl back into being a child, but it's also a matter of pride and important. um, and
Yeah,
on the other side, I have to say, I'm looking at taking care of my parents older, where now it's going into that phase of I want to make sure they're okay, and I want to make sure that I'm near enough. But at the same time, it's not the same. Like, we can't live in the same house. We can, but it's not the same as when we were growing up. So I want to be respectful of their space, them being able to have their own schedules, meet their own friends, eat the food they want to eat. Um, and as I think about that, I also think about, because I have some older friends too who are, I don't think they would like to be called older, and some of them don't mind, some of them do anyway. But in the decades of the 70s and the 80s, um, and I want to reach out to them just as if they were, they're friends. So we keep the friendly equation. I'm not the daughter or something. But at the same
right.
time,
Yeah,
but at the same time, I want to, there's a feeling of, I want to take care of you because there are certain things I see you obviously need help with that I want to be there for. And then when I hear someone helping out my mom, I go, "Oh, I'm so glad." Like, just like I'm reaching out to someone else, you know, some stranger has reached out to my mom, and mom is so happy about it. Uh, and this to me is community. This to me is like basic humanity, to be there for each other just as though they're family.
no, I totally agree with that. And even with my parents are much older as well. My dad's in his early 80s. My mom's almost 80. So I have that once again. Now I have my daughter growing up where she's at. I have my parents who are really in great shape for their age. I'm so happy for that. Um, but being realistic about how everything is, they're slowing down and everything. I get that. And they still want their independence as much as possible as well, just as much as Erin does. And I will say, I remember one night she took me out to dinner for some occasion or maybe for whatever, and she was very proud to be able to pay for the meal. You know what I mean? So there is that pride when you're able to take care of yourself and do things for others too. which is an awesome feeling, right?
Yeah. And I really feel that, you know, like I go on these walks in my neighborhood and being able, over time, people have seen me. So now there's several spots where if I see someone and they've seen me, sometimes we don't remember our names. That's not important. But I see a person and the person sees me. We know each other. We know we're neighbors. We're in this area somewhere. And we smile and we talk. And so there's a certain peace going on that walk for me, because for me it's spending time in nature. And I feel that it gives me more comfort than any human contact. That does not mean I don't need human contact. So meeting people, those greetings, or just seeing how they're doing, or sharing updates about our lives, um, an occasional handshake or a hug, all of that is really important, on top of having family and our near and dear ones. I feel that feeling of safety that I feel, and the feeling of being seen, I think it's mutual. It is extremely important.
Yeah, and before we started this, we both talked about just being in the proximity of people. I work from home, you work from home, and a lot of times I go down to the library, my local library, to work. Or I go to a cafe to work as well, and I sit there for a few hours. And I may not talk to anybody, but I can feel the energy around me.
Mm.
Especially if I go to a place I really like and the music is mellow and it just feels good. Or down at the library, I know people there. It's just kind of nice to know they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's just, once again, there's something about that proximity. And even I mentioned to you, like, I stopped going to the gym and I'm going to work out here, but I even noticed cutting off that proximity to people, even though I rarely talk to anybody at the gym. I just go there to work out. There is that feeling of just like, I don't know if it's safety. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. Um, but you're just in an element for a little while. So it's just so important for us to remember that, to even just to get yourself out there. And I know, like, you love to be in nature. I love to be in nature too. But then also put yourself in situations just to be around people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like there's a safety in the sense of the comfort that we've got each other, and we value each other's happiness or well-being, you know. And it well, I don't know these people's lives, and they don't know what specifically is happening with me, but it's a nice feeling, and I feel that that's an important thing to cultivate. That give and take, that exchange, in whatever capacity is possible within the environment we might be in. In some places, it can be more so, in some less. But to have that, I feel builds a sense of safety, in the sense that you're not getting robbed or cheated, or have to look out for yourself. It's more of you are okay, I'm okay. Doesn't mean that you can't have problems. It just means we are okay. It builds a sense of trust, safety, community, and that if needed, we can have an understanding when needed. Through ups and downs. But that presence, like you said, there's an energy, even if we don't talk, is essential.
But I also look at it as you're putting yourself out there too. So there may be an interaction that happens. You know what I mean? You get
Hmm.
out there, you're going to see something, you might hear something, you might end up talking to somebody. You're not going to find that in your living room. Is my point. It's like,
Yeah,
for the longest time, it's kind of like, when you go out into the world, more than likely something's going to happen.
yeah,
Or you can at least see something new, or something is going to happen, and it's just going to kind of brighten your day a little bit. Because I'm always, the minute I leave the house, hit the car, especially this time of year, the cold hits you in the face and you kind of wake up all of a sudden, right? You're kind of like, I'm so happy to be out of the house.
Yeah.
Even if I was dragging my butt out of bed, didn't want to get up, I was extremely happy when I get out and the body needs to be moving and everything. And I feel so much better just being outside.
And just to tie this up to, the conversation again, to transitions for ourselves and also our kids. But just like you and I are talking about the connection with people and having different experiences and learning about ourselves, and also this very important need for community among people. Our kids are experiencing that too. And one of the things that I want to leave our audience here to think about and also share, if you feel called to, is understanding your need for that community and understanding the need for community for your child. When I say child, I'm not looking at a small child, any age, but understanding that and then navigating your relationship through that lens is something that will help more towards growth and moving forward while keeping your relationship intact and beautiful and not feel like it's falling apart. So we would love to hear how you perceive the need for this connection, how families play that role for us in very important ways, but then that we have to make the effort to go beyond that.
Well said. Well said. I think just to remember for all the parents and everybody out there too, you need the community just as much as your kids need it. We all need connection on some levels.
Yes, and not to shy away from it. So, well, thank you, and we will be back again next month. But until then, we're glad you were here, and we'll be in conversation.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Hi, in between Shawn and I, we have a very special announcement. We're collaborating with a group of other family and parenting experts. We're offering this webinar next month, 16th of April, which is open to anyone and everyone who is navigating family and relationships, and to hear from us about what it means at different stages of life, including teenage years, job transitions, having special needs, specific role as men and parents as dads, and also the connections between families across lifetime. So please come join us, and we would love to be in conversation. Thank you.